Hello there, everyone. My name is Aaron Burr. Welcome to the We All Can Change podcast. Here I help others heal the earth to live a more fulfilled and healthier life. I like to keep things pretty lighthearted, so that's why I do all this in a non-extreme and not too serious way. Seriously. All right, you crazy kids. Welcome to episode number 9. I'm talking about making changes in our lives. The reason I'm so excited about this episode is because we can apply this really anywhere in our lives, whether that be for the environment, our health, love, friendships, travel, and adventure, anything that we want to do more of or less of to better our lives, basically. So I'm also going to be diving into my backstory a little bit on what has happened in my life to make me, I guess, wake up on some certain things and then also push through to become a better person. So I haven't really shared this story with really anyone except for my close friends until this day. So I'm excited to kind of build a stronger connection with you and share my life a little bit more. I know I dove into this a little bit in the intro episode, but certainly just kind of left it hanging and didn't really talk about anything else. So cool. I'm excited. Before I start, I do want to say that I definitely do not know everything. I haven't been studying psychology or sociology for 20 years. I just know my own experiences. I hope that sharing those experiences will help you somehow. And I mean, I have my own thoughts and my own observations. And so I'm excited to bring that to the table. And I don't know everything at the end of the day. I'm just a human being and I'm sorry. So I always have this question in my head is why do we wait to make changes? Right? We've always been told patience is a virtue and good things come to people that wait. And it's like, oh, well, it's good to be patient, but nothing's going to just plop down on your lap in life if you just sit there. In my experience, at least. I haven't really won $1 million sitting and watching Netflix all the time. Not yet, at least. Maybe it'll happen eventually. But so yeah, I mean, why do we wait? There's a lot of different reasons that I came up with, but looking into them, they're all kind of stemming from one thing. And what I'm going to say is that it all comes from us living a life led by our minds instead of our hearts or our souls. We let our minds do everything, right? Control everything. And because of that, we're terrified. Right? We're terrified of failing. We're afraid of being cast out. We want the same things. We want the same environment. We want to be doing the same thing because it's comfortable. We get lazy because the mind likes to be lazy. It doesn't like to be just bombarded, right? It doesn't like to be stressed. Easy and comfortable and sameness is safe. And so I think everything pretty much stems from that. I mean, I could go in and say, oh, we're lazy. That's why. Oh, we like being comfortable. That's why. But it's really just, I think we're letting our minds rule our lives instead of our hearts. A lot of us know what changes we have to make deep down. We know it. We feel it, right? Yeah, I shouldn't say know it because that's a brain thing. We feel what we need to do. Yeah. So I think everything comes from our brain. Afraid of failing. And for a good reason, right? When we were hunters and gatherers, fighting saber-toothed tigers and stuff, the same was good because it means we probably wouldn't die because we'd get good at the same thing, over and over again. Things would change. We'd have to adapt. But getting settled into something, it was good because we weren't dying. But now we're in such a safe place and such an advanced modern society that, man, we're too safe, right? And things are too easy. Things are too comfortable. The comfortable life is killing us. So I think that's what's preventing us from making these changes. I don't think people hate change, right? They hate being changed. That's a pretty popular quote, and the minimalists use it all the time. People don't hate change, they hate being changed. So we don't hate it. We may be afraid for good reason. Failure's scary, being cast out is scary, and harming ourselves is scary, right? Maybe some of us don't know how to change. That's a possible reason too. If we aren't educated on certain things, if we don't know a thing about health, there may be some common sense things, but a lot of these things we'll have to learn. So sometimes it may just be that we don't know how, and that's okay, because there's ways around that, and there's ways to push through that. I mean, all these things were preventing me from making changes for sure. I certainly let my mind run my life for the first part of it, certainly, and I really had a deep feeling of doing things different. Like my heart was just begging me to go do what I want to do deep down, and I was suppressing that. I was almost there though. Let's see, at the end of high school, I was like, fuck college. I just want to go get a world education and travel and learn from people all over and be my own boss, start my own business or nonprofit or whatever. And I was pretty much on that line. I was about to do it, but all it took is like one role model to be like, Aaron, you can't do that. And, all that fear that I already had, I just had a way out, basically. I was like, okay, this person's telling me not to, so I guess I shouldn't. So that was my way out, right? So I've been having all these things prevent me from making changes for sure. Yeah. I've never wanted a comfortable life, but I've wanted a safe one. I've always been, I've been in the past certainly afraid of failing and embarrassment and getting hurt, all these things. So yeah, I wanted to travel. I wanted to save the world. I wanted to help people. I wanted to reforest Africa. All these things I still certainly want to do. But I wasn't. I chose to go to school and study something that I cared about, but I knew that I could be learning way more outside of this, but I kept doing it because I was terrified, right? We're told that in society, if you don't go to school, if you don't get your education, you're gonna be a loser. You're gonna be cast out because you don't have a 4-year degree, and therefore you won't make any money. And if you don't make any money, then you're not successful. And if you're not successful, then you're a subpar human being. So, yeah. I took a summer off, of course. I took all my summers off during school. I went on a bike trip, and it was New York to Seattle. So it was a big bike trip. It was awesome. Best time of my life. We planted food gardens, did sustainability projects, had great people to bike with every single day. And I like biking, hands down. I like biking, sustainability. It was perfect. In the middle, in Upper Peninsula of Michigan, I got this feeling in my lower abdomen. I was like, feels like I'm sick, but it's also a pain. And I had like a big fever all of a sudden. Yeah, I was like freezing. It was only like 60 degrees out, and I put on like my winter coat. It was really weird. So I had all that going on, and I ended up biking to the next campsite, and I realized my testicle was super swollen, like double the size. Sorry about the graphicness, but yeah, super swollen. And I could just, assume that everything was coming from that somehow, pain wise, maybe even like fever wise, probably all connected somehow. And so I was like, oh shit. And that's not good. So there was a hospital in that town I was in, but I knew it wasn't as good as the next one. So I was in Munising, and so I'm like, I'll make it to Marquette. So I biked from Munising to Marquette really quickly and made it there. Went into the hospital. I went into not a free clinic, but like a walk-in clinic. I mean, they took a look at it and they're like, we can't do anything for you. I can't see what's going on. You have to go to the ER. And so I'm like, great, sweet. So I'd go to the ER, get an ultrasound. Doctors come back with the ultrasound and they say there's a mass of some sort inside my testicle. I hate the word testicle. I don't know what else it's called. My ball? Yeah, sure. And they say that this could either be a contusion or, especially based on your age, I was 21. It's the perfect age for testicular cancer. So they said either one, we're going to do some blood tests and you're going to go to a urologist tomorrow morning. So got that done. Went to the urologist, and I mean, my blood tests came back fine, basically. But of course, I mean, got the go ahead to not go ahead on my bike trip because of, if it is an injury, could potentially damage it more. If it is cancer, you want to get that taken care of right away. So I ultimately ended up not continuing on the bike trip and spent that summer in Michigan, in Traverse City, actually. So I went down to Traverse City where my brothers were and stayed with them for the summer. So I got another ultrasound or another checkup in Traverse City, and this doctor said, no, this is definitely cancer. So I'm like, fuck. Yeah, it was a pretty sad moment because he was like certain. I mean, he didn't have a doubt in his mind based on my age and based on what he was feeling and the mass and everything. So he's like, cancer, yeah, for sure. And you need to get this removed because that's basically the only procedure they have for this kind of thing, since it is so close to your lymphatic system, is to remove the entire ball. Not just the mass, the entire thing. So, because they can't biopsy it, basically. So, really, I have no idea if it is cancer or if it is an injury. And they have no idea, really, because they can't biopsy it. They just play it safe, and they say, yep, cut the whole thing out. Then you can biopsy it afterwards and see what it was, if it even matters, because it'll already be out anyways. So that's the procedure, which is kind of crazy. This is 2016 or 17 at that point. Like, we should be able to get a definitive answer on this, right? You don't just cut off an arm because there's a mass in there that you can't test for, right? But because you have two testicles, you just cut one off. So, yeah, that's the procedure. And so naturally, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait it out and play it safe. I'm going to get a ultrasound I think I was doing every month or every 3 months. I was doing a pretty much an anti-cancer diet. I was doing full alkalinity diet with no sugar, super alkaline foods that create an environment in your blood and in your body that cancer and other diseases and bacteria don't really thrive in very well. So did that, and the mass was going down. Yeah, the mass was going down, and so things were looking up. And it was like, yep, cancer doesn't usually do that. It could be something else. In the meantime, I'm going to more and more urologists. All of them, or most of them, still saying, yeah, you should just get surgery, like today. So, yeah, everyone's telling me I'm basically making the wrong decision and that I could be dying. Yeah, pretty sobering, pretty sad, pretty depressing, but it's shrinking. The mass was shrinking and things were looking up. I had potential to live. Initially, from that reaction, of course, I got pretty sad, and I'm like, oh, I'm not an invincible teenager anymore. I could die, right? I could actually die. Yeah, at first, first month or so, it's definitely fear, and in that first month, I mean, because of the fear part of it, I guess I kind of just tried to do what I knew was safe. And so I rushed into school and made sure I got into my classes for the next semester. Went down to St. Petersburg, Florida, to live there for school. And so, because that was what was safe, right? I was like terrified. I was like, oh my God, my life. And then this was like something that I knew, even though I knew it wasn't for me. I wasn't even thinking about that. I wasn't even thinking about what was right for me. I was just thinking about like, oh, I'm fucking terrified. What's safe, right? What's comfortable and what's familiar. So I went into school and things just weren't going well. I mean, the mass was like kind of stalling basically. So it stopped shrinking. So I took a month off from school, and some things went wrong with some living situations and blah 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 blah. Yeah, I ultimately realized that I needed to take care of my health, and so I that's why I took the school off for a month. Really, just took care of my health and ate pretty dang healthy, alkaline, anti-cancer diet the whole time. So at one point during that time, I woke up that morning. I just thought, I am not doing what I want to be doing. Like, why am I in school still? Why am I setting up this life to be stationary, 9 to 5, traditional life? That's because that's what education sets you up for. It sets you up for the normal. So one morning, I woke up and I didn't want to be doing that anymore, and I knew it. And I'm like, enough's enough. If not now, then I'll never do it, because I don't really know. I don't At that point, I didn't really know what was in the future for me. I didn't know if I had a future, right? I didn't know if this thing I was watching through ultrasounds was spreading to my brain or my lungs or through my lymphatic system. So yeah, I finally made a decision, and that same week that I woke up that one morning, I dropped out of school, started to focus on me basically and focus on getting this thing taken care of. And yeah, so the mass certainly kept going down, and so that was good. So I pretty much ended up doing that and going back and forth and dealing with this for a little bit over a year. I mean, it was about a year of ultrasounds and et cetera, et cetera. Doctors telling me I have cancer. Doctors telling me, no, it's an injury. You should just wait it out. I mean, the ratio was certainly off. I mean, the cancer doctors were certainly like way more than the injury doctors. So it was terrifying, honestly. You know, I want to say that I knew deep down it was something else, but in the moment, it's just you're just overwhelmed with fear, and it's honestly really scary. So I took the whole, I want to live for me even further, and sold my car because I wanted to travel. So I worked at my pro shop job and made some money, sold my car, and ended up hitchhiking and traveling across the U.S. It was amazing, for sure. And so I was still trying to, I was getting ultrasounds and everything. Things were good. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to live my life. I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to focus on being happy. And yeah, so that's what I did. So I traveled. I got to Seattle and stayed there. And I stayed there from June to, let's see, I think it was either November or December. So I stayed there for a little bit. The reason I left is because, well, first my grandma passed away, and so I flew back to Florida for a couple weeks originally. So I flew back there, and when I was there, I kind of was able to really stop and think and kind of reanalyze and reassess what I want to do and what I want to be doing. Seattle was pretty expensive, to be honest, which most of you probably know. And I definitely didn't want to be having to live in a really expensive place like that, because that forces you into just working 40 to 80 hours a week, right? So definitely didn't want to do that. I mean, 40, I don't mind working a lot as long as it's for what I want to be doing, and not having all my money go to rent. So that's certainly not what I wanted to be doing, and so I made the decision to just come back to Florida and kind of just figure things out again. So I did, and I ended up getting another ultrasound just to check in on things. So I'm making changes in life. Things are going pretty well. I'm feeling better about what I'm doing in life and what I want to do and the direction I'm heading in. But there's still this issue of this cancer/injury thing going on. So I got an ultrasound, and the mass was technically a little bit bigger. So I was like, well, it's kind of a red flag, and that's not very good. In the meantime, this all could be somehow spreading maybe to everywhere else in my body. So there's been that fear there for that whole year and a half, basically. So, yeah, I mean, kind of going back and forth for about a month after that. I finally just made the decision to get the surgery. Yeah, just because it was just too much to handle. I mean, I couldn't live with that mistake, I guess, of saying, oh no, it's something else, and which it could have been solved pretty easily. That surgery is super simple, and it's very curable of a type of cancer for sure. So I didn't want to be the one to die from something that would have been totally fixable if I would have just gotten the simple surgery. And there's the whole question of like, is this just my ego talking of like, oh, I will be less of a man if I got this? Or is it an actual analysis of, nah, what is this actually? Because I was biking so much and could be an injury, blah, 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 blah. But ultimately, I had to come to the realization that this could be not cancer, and I could get the surgery, and this could have been just an injury. And I had to come to terms with that basically, and say that I would be okay with that if that's what happens. If I get the surgery, that's the only way. I mean, I'd have to be okay with it. So eventually, yeah. I mean, I came to terms with the fact that it could be something else, and I got the surgery. So lost a ball. Yeah. Um, and I got the biopsy and everything. All the surgery went well. Everything went fine. Everything's normal. Got the biopsy and no cancer. After all that, so yeah, it was yeah, it was certainly good to hear. I mean, it's definitely a good thing, right? Because I don't have anything else spreading in my body, or don't have to do chemo or a cancer program of health stuff, whatever. I don't have to worry about it. It wasn't cancer. They had no idea what it was. And to this day, no one can tell me what happened. I'm just going to go with it was an injury, but they're probably still sitting in a lab right now with my ball there, with my testicle there, trying to figure out what it was. So, yeah, crazy. So I mean, it's definitely tough to hear that maybe I could have figured out some way to heal differently than I was. I mean, it's weird. It was a year and a half dealing with pain, by the way. I mean, I had pain there for a year and a half after that injury, basically. So it wasn't healing, which was strange. And so, I mean, if I got that answer that it wasn't cancer, I mean, I would have maybe gone to maybe an acupuncturist to, relieve some, I don't know, pressure that's blocking my healing or something. I would have gone to like some temple that they worked their spiritual magic and just boom, 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 I'm healed. I would have tried other things for sure if I had the ability to get that answer, before the surgery. So that was tough to hear. It was also really great. And like I said, I had to come to terms with that possibility. If I decide to do the surgery, I had to be okay with that possibility that it would have been fine if I didn't have the surgery, basically. So I did, and I was fine, and all you can do is push on. I mean, it's tough, easier said than done, for sure. I mean, it was basically, the way I put it is I was already down. I was already laying on the ground from the cancer diagnosis, right? A year ago. It's already laying on the side of the road. And then the surgery, or like the need for surgery, was like a curb stomp. It's like a curb stomp while I was down. Like, yeah. So, yeah, it's crazy. It's just like one thing after the other for about 2 years of my life. Just like pretty gnarly stuff going on. So, I would say, if I were to describe it in a what's the reason for all this, I would say that when we start to make changes in our lives, there's resistance. There's resistance from ourselves, basically, or the universe, or whatever, because we're changing ourselves. We're changing our comfortable routine, right? We're getting out of our comfort zone, and we don't like that, right? That's not normal. And so things will come up in our lives preventing us from doing that. I want to assume and say that that's what happened. Is I went on this bike trip. I was pretty much on the path to not really coming back from the bike trip and not really finishing school. I had that in my head. If I said to myself, if I got to Seattle on the bike trip and I didn't feel the need to go back and like I found some cool opportunity or something like that, that I wouldn't. And so I was on this path to some pretty big changes. And so I think that injury may have been a form of pretty big resistance, certainly, to changing. And luckily I came out of it and still pushed through. It actually probably even helped, I'd say. There's two ways that I look at it, is that resistance part, and then also that coming up in my life as a wake-up call, right? As a, hey, you're not invincible. You're not going to live forever. You got to start right now, because that's the time. There's no other time, right? If we say tomorrow, it'll never get done. So I look at that in two ways. So there's resistance, but I pushed through it and made changes still. I still planned I dropped out of school. I sold my car. I traveled. And then the surgery happened, right? The mass grew, and that was kind of another resistance thing. It's like, oh, he's making these changes. Here's another thing to throw at him. So I think I would say that the surgery and everything, it made me more serious. The first part, the cancer part, that was like, all right, you need to change. Don't worry about being serious about anything. Just do what you love. Just follow your heart. The surgery part, certainly more of a sobering, like, okay, you need to get your shit together, because if you don't, life's going to just keep throwing you these things and you're just going to get knocked down. So I kind of got serious about, following my heart and following what I love and doing what I love. Sort of. I'm not too serious of a person, but I hunkered in and set up a direction that I wanted to go, and I can happily say now that every step I take is now towards the direction I want to go, and honestly, it feels absolutely amazing. There's ups and downs of life. I'm not just like this suddenly. I've always been a happy person, but I'm not this like always happy, always high kind of person. I'm not riding these highs all the time. Life is about ups and downs. I think that anyone who's always constantly at an all-time high, then there's probably some sort of mental disorder going on. Because life is ups and downs, and you basically just set that bar higher as you go. When you make changes in life, you set that bar higher so that the downs, they're not as down, but the highs are higher, right? So the lows, they're a little bit higher, the highs are higher, and things are rising. But there's still ups and downs for sure. I still get sad, I still get angry, I still get depressed sometimes. Yeah, I mean during the whole cancer thing, and then even after the surgery, there was times that I didn't feel like going on. Like there was weeks where not only did I not want to do anything, I didn't want to live. Yeah, I mean it was definitely the hardest time of my whole life, for sure. During the year of battling that, and then also the post surgery even too, like after the surgery, just lots of emotions and lots of sadness and yeah, pretty depressing time. But I honestly realized that no matter what anyone said, no matter how much advice I got, like that wouldn't help at the end of the day if I didn't want to change. Like if I didn't want to change, and if I didn't get up and start doing stuff and start making some moves, that nothing would have gotten done. I mean, that's just my opinion. And so when I have friends that are sad, I do know that words of encouragement and letting people know that I'm here for them help. But I mean, if people don't want to help themselves, then I mean, you can't help them, basically. Probably said that saying wrong, but you know what I mean. So, so yeah, everyone thinks that I'm a pretty just happy guy all the time. I haven't really had much happen to me, and I never have down moments. But yeah, I mean, there were times where it was pretty sad, and I didn't want to go on with life at all. So I mean that, and I have that very rarely now, but there's certainly times where I'm pretty sad and down, especially in the work that I'm in. The environmental movement, it's pretty sad, and even though I lead a pretty positive message, it still gets to me, certainly by reading all this stuff, because there is research required in my life, and yeah, it gets me down sometimes. Absolutely. And ultimately, we always talk about these life-changing moments, like these terrible situations that change our lives forever for the better, right? And I think that's true. I think that those situations and those moments, they do change our lives, and they do make us better people if we get through it. If we choose to make that a good thing instead of a bad thing. But it's tough. I'm sorry to say that that doesn't last. Yeah. I had my life-threatening motivation. It lasted for maybe a month or two. And then after that, it's like, okay, this is wearing off, and you got to choose, do you want to go back to where you were, or do you want to continue? And it gets tough because life's difficult and challenges present themselves, and so that it wears off. It's not like oh, this one bad thing happened to me, now my whole life's going to be great. It's like that wears off, and you got to choose to keep going or to give up, basically. So I kept going, and after that motivation wore off from the life-threatening things, it was all up to me. Basically, it was all on me to keep making changes in the direction that I want to go. So, and it's terrifying. Once that adrenaline wears off, you're like, fuck, like this stuff could keep happening again, and I could fail, and blah blah blah. It's super scary, and I'm scared all the time, for sure. I mean, here I am. I'm trying to like build a podcast, and eventually down the road, that'll be my career, is like podcast writing, the environmental movement. That'll be my career. Right now, I don't want that to be my number one driver, is money. So I'm making money elsewhere, but it is scary being going down a path that's not certain. All this could fail, right? I could stay at, I could have stayed at like 5 followers on my podcast or something like that, and that's possible, and I still don't know if it'll succeed. So it is scary, but I don't think certainty is what makes us happy in the end, right? I mean, I would argue uncertainty maybe, or what comes from uncertain things. So I still struggle with things, for sure. That's what I want to really emphasize is not, life's not all cherries and rainbows. I've been thinking about cherry pie recently. Ooh, I can go for some cherry pie. But it's the best feeling. It's the best feeling that I'm on a path to help others and also help the planet. It is honestly the most amazing feeling in the world, doing what I want to be doing in my life. I mean, it's not easy. It's pretty hard, actually, but it's all worth it. It is all worth it. Absolutely. I mean, the other night I stayed up till like 4 a.m. because I couldn't sleep, and I also had work to do. And so, I mean, I could just complain and whine about that stuff, but I honestly, I love it at the end of the day. Like I the next day I'm like, oh, that was awesome because I'm like, I'm getting somewhere, I'm getting somewhere on what I want to do. Yeah. So that's my story. That's it. That's me. How do we make changes? That's what I'm shifting gears to. I've got a few things to say about making changes. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to want to, right? If you have absolutely no desire to, I don't know, eat healthier or spend more time with your family or save the planet or something like that, I'm not gonna make you change. Nothing I say on here is gonna make you want to do something, right? You gotta want to. And I mean, I can say to you, don't wait for a cancer diagnosis or, a death of a loved one. Don't wait for something catastrophic to happen. And I could say that, and maybe that would help. Please, please, I am begging you, do not wait for something like that to happen. If you have it deep down that you know you want to make some changes, do not wait, for sure. I mean, just start now. And how do we do that? I mean, I've found that with things that are difficult for me, I have to do a little bit, but I do that little bit every single day. And so, I mean, I can't commit to something brand new like an hour every day, right? Especially like something like meditating. I've been trying to get way more into meditating this past year, and there's no way I would be able to do it if I said, okay, I got to meditate for an hour every single day, indefinitely. You do a little bit, 5 minutes every day. Anyone can take 5 minutes out of their day, right? It's not about having time. We all have time to do anything we want. It's about where we're allocating our time to, right? And ultimately we can find 5 minutes every day for something. So I would say a little bit every day, whether that be health, whether that be the environment, our footprint, spending time with friends, family, or travel. Yeah, just setting it up so that you're building it up every day pretty much, and eventually that'll be the norm, and then you increase the amount because that's the norm now, and then you can keep going from there. I mean, that's the most success I've found for myself. There are some things where maybe it would be better to just like quit altogether or to be all in on. But typically, a little bit every day, every single day is way better than, oh, I'm going to do this for an hour one day and then exhaust myself and have that negative feeling towards that now, so that I don't want to do it for the whole week, right? If you have this negative feeling and you're like, wow, that was a lot of work, you're not going to want to do it, I mean, really ever again. And that's what I had to do with writing as well. No one's born a good writer. I know that. I'm certainly not. And so I've kind of taken the little bit every day approach, and I just write at least one paragraph or one sentence. I just write something every single day. And even if that's a sentence, even if it's a paragraph, I will write every day. And I won't have a goal of a page or a blog post every day. That would just be like overwhelming. Maybe at some point it wouldn't be overwhelming, but right now, no way. And if I just sat down and wrote a whole post, I would be pretty overwhelmed, and I'd be like, okay, now I'm going to take like a week off because I'm like, I don't want to do that again. So a little bit every day. Another big one is follow your heart. I mean, that's where most changes come from, right? Because I mean, our brain doesn't want to change, right? Our brain likes being comfortable. Our brain likes to eat junk food because it tastes good. It's sent those endorphins and blah 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 blah, all those scientific things. anatomical things. Yeah, I mean, our brain doesn't want to change. It all comes from our heart, and so those feelings that you feel like, oh man, I gotta get healthy, or man, yeah, I really do want to reduce my footprint and have a better impact and save the planet. Follow that and follow your heart, because I mean, you'll never regret it. That's all I have to say, is that no one ever regrets following their heart, even if they fail. Even if it's a catastrophic failure, no one's gonna go back on doing that, because they'll either learn or they'll gain from it, right? I mean, learning is gaining, but you know what I mean. uh, on following your heart, that's tough though, because we are constantly thinking, and it's tough to decipher between what's our brain and what's our heart. I mean, it's pretty difficult. And JP Sears does a really good video on this. He's like a super funny guy. He does he's had like the videos on, like, what's a popular one? One of my favorites, how to become gluten intolerant, because I don't eat any gluten, and so it's just like so funny. And then he also does one on if vegans acted like meat, or no, if meat eaters acted like vegans. I'm just thinking of them right now. They're so funny. But so he like brings this humor to things that are obviously like pretty real, and things that he's a pretty like hippie dude naturally, but he brings these jokes around himself that he can relate to and that he's had experience with, but then are actually true, and then he dishes out some semi-serious things sometimes, and the follow your heart videos one of them, and it's super good. I mean, there was a time where I can't remember what I was thinking about, but I was trying to decide a path to go down. I was trying to decide, okay, what should I do? I think it was, should I settle down into one place, build up this podcast for a year, make some money, pay off debt, or should I travel and do all of that and move away and get all that done? And so I couldn't tell if this one option was my brain saying it, or if this one option was my heart feeling it. And I couldn't decipher, because there's so much noise in life, and maybe meditation will help that for sure. It'll help cancel out the noise, and it'll help you listen to your heart. But ultimately I was just stuck. And so I listened to his video, and that really helped me just kind of make a decision and choose a direction to go in. So check that video out. I'll of course have that link in the show notes below. Other ones are change your environment. Yeah, travel, meeting new people. Definitely. I mean, I don't know. I've certainly changed from traveling, and people are always changing me. They're always giving me new perspectives, and being in a new environment, especially in the environment that you want to see in your life, in your own life, basically. So if you're trying to make some health choices, some better health choices, and improve your diet, improve your exercise, if you're hanging around positive, uplifting, very healthy, and very fit people, oh, that is going to be so motivating, and so it'll just contribute to your success so much. So change your environment, and learning as well, reading books, listening to really cool environmental podcasts or any podcast. Learn. Education. There's never too much to learn. There's never a point where we're like, yeah, we don't need to learn anymore about this. And another one that I've followed a lot is following the clear path in life. I mean, and that's obviously tough, right? To follow the path that's clearly what you're meant to go down and clearly what your heart is saying. I read this little book. It's called The Little Book of Awakening, and it just gives you like daily doses of kind of these little stories, these little mini stories, like 1 or 2 pages of like this tiny book. And one of them was, it was about the path, basically. It was about following your path and trying to figure out the way to go. And they talk about how when salmon are swimming upstream to go spawn, they are constantly bumping into objects and different things until they find the basically the path with most resistance means that way is clear, because if the current is flowing super hard, then that means that there are no barriers, there are no objects in that path because it's flowing so hard. And so they bring it back and say that the path that is most clear is often the one with most resistance. So while it might be obviously difficult of a path, I mean, I could have chosen a 9 to 5 life. I could have chosen to stay in Florida and just work and build up the podcast, and that would have been safe for sure, right? It would have been safe, and it would have been realistic, and I would have paid off debt pretty quickly. But it wasn't the clear path. I knew my clear path deep down. I felt the clear path, right? And it was obviously the hardest one. Choosing a life of travel and choosing a life of making a living off of a podcast. Definitely the one with most resistance. I am definitely a salmon. So the clear path often has the most resistance. So look for resistance to find your path, maybe. Another one is find your why, right? If we don't know why we want to change, if we just have the feeling of, we should get healthy, if we just have that feeling, we're not going to be able to fall back on anything, basically. When things get tough, all we're going to know is what we're doing. We're not really going to know why we're doing it. And so get clear on your why, because that's what you're going to fall back on when times get tough. That can be, I don't know, maybe getting healthier for your friends, your family, getting healthier to go do something you like more, getting healthier to go travel more, or getting healthier to go maybe hike if you love to hike, but you're kind of unhealthy. Find your why. It could be anything. I could give a bunch of examples, but you got to figure out what's best for you, because I'm not you and you're not me. Yep. So, I mean, those are some good ones on how. And then, I mean, why now, right? I kind of touched on this earlier about why we should wait, why we shouldn't. I don't think we ever should wait to make changes in our lives, because I mean, life is never going to slow down. Right? I mean, we're always saying, we're busy. I'm too busy, man. Nah, I'm too busy for that. I can't change my life right now. I can't get up and go. Too busy. Things are going on way too much. And life will never slow down. So if you think that's going to happen, I'm sorry to say that right now will probably be maybe the least busy you'll ever be. I mean, you can free up your life and free up your schedule for sure, but it's never going to slow down. And so we need to think: is this just an excuse, or is the time really not right? And I don't know. I don't know if there's ever a bad time, because all we have ultimately is our time, right? That's our number one asset. Most valuable asset is our own time. And what do we want to be doing with it right now? Because all we have is now. That's all we have. And every minute, every day, every week, every month, every year that we spend doing something that we don't want to be doing, I don't know. I almost want to say it's time wasted. I know that that's not very sensitive of a thing to say, but ultimately it is. I mean, there's certainly like learning experiences from everything, and there's resistance that we have to push through, and sometimes that resistance does take time, right? But if we can start right now, then we should. Absolutely. I mean, by taking action today, we are building our future, but we're also acting like this would be our last day. Because I mean, we're living in line with ourselves, right? If we take action, not only does it yeah, no, not only does it plan ahead, right? We're planning ahead, we're setting ourselves up for success. If we died today, we'd feel a lot better about it because we're taking action, right? So it's kind of doing both. I mean, you can't live in both worlds. You can't live in like, okay, I'm gonna set my future up 200 years down the road, right? And you also can't be like, okay, I'm not gonna plan anything because I'm gonna definitely die today, or there's a big chance I will. So we got to do a happy medium. And I think by taking action, we're actually doing both. If we're in line with what we want to be doing, we are doing both. If we're going towards that direction, I think we'll be happy that we know that we're living up to our own standards and to what we want to be doing. I mean, that's all I have to say about that, I guess. That's my thought. If you're afraid of failing, you could fail. Basically, you could fail for sure. At least you could say I gave it a shot. At least you can say that you tried your best and you could fail, right? You could be embarrassed and society could cast you out sort of, but they really won't ultimately. You can always say you gave it a shot and you probably won't even fail if you decide to do it. And I'm always here to help if you need my help on anything and need some encouraging words. Yeah. If we say tomorrow, then it will never happen. And the fear of failure will never, ever be worse than the regret of not doing anything. That's what I try and live by. I'm not perfect. I don't live by that all the time. But I know that regret is way worse than the fear of failure and the fear of making changes. I think you can make these changes, and I am absolutely begging you to not wait for something bad to happen like it did in my life. And if something bad did happen in your life and you're kind of back into a slump or something like that, hey, it's never too late to restart and kickstart those gears again and get back on it because we've got time, right? That's all we've got is time, and we might as well start now. So I'm trying to be a very encouraging speaker right now, and it's sort of working, maybe, I hope. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of wrapping up here. But when we make these changes, we'll definitely face a lot of resistance, right? Because that's going to happen. That's going to happen when we make changes in our lives. Our lives are going to want to be the same and comfortable and safe, right? So we're going to face resistance, and we have to push through it because you got this. And you are strong, amazing, powerful, and you're an exciting individual that I'm so happy to have as a listener on my podcast, and I'm excited for you to make changes in your life, however that may be. I don't care if it's the environment, health, love, travel, adventure, anything. You pick. What has been kind of poking at your heart, what have you been feeling deep down that you really need to start? And you don't have to dive into this huge thing and just totally uproot your whole life, right? Sometimes you might have to, maybe, but a lot of times you can just make these small incremental changes that over time, every single day, you gain so much. Like, think about a month, 30 days of doing 10 minutes of something you want to improve on. Wow. Such an impact for sure. That's all I got to say. I hope you liked my story, and I hope this motivated you to rise up, because you're a beautiful, beautiful individual, and I love you. So what's new at We All Can Change? I am launching a reward system for individuals that share and get people to sign up for my emails, or also follow me on social media, on Instagram or Facebook. I'm setting up a reward system of some sort. I haven't solidified anything. I'm working on the rewards. So what would you like to receive from me? What would motivate you, or what do you think would motivate people to, find people in their life that they would like to share the We All Can Change message to? And I don't want you to spam people. I don't want you to have to spam your friends and cold call people. I could do all of that. I could do all of that easy. I'm looking for people that would be so grateful that you sent them my way, because they're all about it, and this could really kind of resonate with them and vibe with them. So I'm looking for those people. If you authentically don't have any of those people in your life, then don't send it around. Maybe just share it on your status or something, and that'll help. I'm grateful for any help. But yeah, so I'm gonna be launching like a reward thing, like a little campaign to get authentic new followers of the movement and everything. And because I ultimately don't want followers, right? I'm not looking for more followers on Instagram. I'm looking for more people that I can change and better their lives, basically. So if you have any people in mind, send them my way, or maybe wait and build a list, so that once that reward system is set up, I will be able to dish out some sick rewards for you. Cool. Well, hey, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it around. You can also donate to fund my work, either by PayPal or now Patreon. So on Patreon, you can set up a tier every month. And so you can do as little as $2 a month, and you'll actually receive stuff. You'll receive certain ways to connect with me, ask questions. I can share your responses and questions onto my podcasts as well. There's different tiers that offer discounts on services, as well as free services that I offer. And I'm building on those tiers every day. So check that out. That link is always in the show notes. That's on Patreon. And this keeps my bills paid. It allows me to continue learning in new ways to serve you, as well as, most importantly, keep me advertisement free. I don't want to sell you things you don't need and contribute to more overconsumption. So thank you so much for your support. I'm so grateful, and like I said, I'm so happy to be able to do this in my life, and nothing feels better than getting on a podcast and sharing my life and my work with all of you. So thank you so much. And if you're looking to stay updated on when new episodes or blog posts come out, you can sign up for a weekly update on what's new. No clutter, not ever, so you don't have to worry about that. It's just one email every week. It's every Sunday morning, like going to church or going to read the Sunday paper. Yeah, either one. Or it's just an email. It's up to you. So you can head over to weallcanchange.com and enter your email at the top of any page. Hey, thank you so much again for listening in, and I hope you have a great day, night, or anything in between. Hey, take care.